Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collective podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, welcome to TFYLP, episode 442. We're live tonight, August 9th. I'm Lucas, and I am joined tonight by Peter.
Forever Destron.
And Paul. And Phil.
Oh, what? Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, we're live in case you weren't aware, so.
Okay. I thought we have done so many recorded ones lately. I thought this was being pre-recorded.
That is true. Yeah, we've been doing vacations and other things and, cast members on vacation all over the place. So, it's the summer, but it should be calming down now here pretty soon. So welcome everyone. But, once again, the book club kind of steals our thunder because they already discussed this movie in depth last night, the Transformers movie. But we decided we'd go ahead and do our own spin. Instead of showing up to book club and talking about it, we would just talk about it live on the air. So here we are.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull it up on my phone there so I can see the comments, and the new art threw me off there.
I know, right? It was like kind of a surprise for all of us that, I appreciate whoever did that art for the preview card there.
It was all drawn with the Unicron quote to start us off.
Hey guys.
I've summoned you here for a purpose.
That was in an early draft of the script, Peter. Just hey guys.
Hey guys.
Yeah, it was Stripes one line.
Megatron just floating in space, and Unicron just like, hey guys.
Can you see me? I'm waving.
So, yeah.
That's how he was supposed to talk in the Bay movies if they continued with the Bayverse. That's how Unicron would talk. He'd just be a big bro,
with the
played by The Rock.
Voiced by Fred Durst.
Oh, no.
I feel like Unicron is somehow going to make an appearance in the regular Transformer movies, for real. Like, after they do Beast Wars, they'll probably do Unicron as well, right?
They're going to do Unicron as part of the Beast Wars Rise of the Beast thing and, retroactively say that the Beasts are protecting Earth, which is Unicron from the future with Nemesis Prime and the Last Night stuff, and just try and, it all together. Right. And
we need to write this moment down, timestamp this, because I think Peter might be more right than we want him to be.
I don't disagree with that.
So we can replay that in a year. Well, actually, a year and 6 months, apparently, as we recently heard. And you may be Nostradamus, Tron. Not that that was what you were trying to do. It might be fun to see
I've done that before. It's never good when I'm right.
So what can we say about this glorious anniversary of this amazing movie, which has affected our lives?
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
So is this movie now have a job in middle management somewhere at a company? I mean, at 35 years old, it's got an established career. How many kids does this movie have at this point? Is it on a PTA or?
Oh yeah.
We've got a new release of it too, so because they had the 30th anniversary Blu-ray, and now it's the 35th anniversary 4K. So
I bought the Laserdisc recently. The Japanese Laserdisc.
Oh, awesome!
Do
you have a Laserdisc player?
I do not.
Are you going to buy a Laserdisc player?
I'm going to buy a Laserdisc player because I also bought a bunch of Machine Robo stuff on Laserdisc because I'm dumb.
I'll warn you that might not work anymore. Laserdiscs would wear out.
Well, it's got cool art.
Yeah, no, it's got really cool art. Yeah.
That's the best poster. That is.
It's kind of like it's a little tough to find a VCR nowadays. I mean, like, it's not that tough, but it's...
Until recently, my mom had a working beta. Until, like, the last couple of years, my mom had a working beta machine. My dad found it in Saudi Arabia in, like, 1996 and sent it home because we had a bunch of beta tapes. And our old beta had croaked. It was an old Sony Betamax. And, yeah, I guess hers croaked semi-recently. So, RIP Mom's beta.
I mean, how did she even know?
Beta
like,
because of the Simpsons joke?
Do I?
Oh,
I only know of beta because of a Simpsons joke.
Oh no, beta was like the primary format in my household. We had the VHS for like to rent movies, but you saved things on the beta because it was better quality. So we had like both formats running concurrently, but we ran everything off of the beta for fucking 15 years. And then it died. Dad went to Saudi, found a beta, sent it home, and then no one ever used it at that point. But we needed it because everything was on beta. But anyway.
Yeah, how did she find out that it wasn't working? Did she actually like pull a movie out and was like, "Oh, guess it doesn't work anymore"? Or?
When we visited her last year, I was looking around because I'd been telling the kids, "You got to check out the beta machine," blah, 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 and where the hell is the beta machine? She's like, "Oh, it broke." So I just let it go at that. Okay.
Trying to pop in an old episode of LA Law and just wouldn't work anymore.
Right.
Now, did you have the Transformers movie on Betamax?
We had our copy on Betamax, yeah. I had, because it was Transformers the movie, GoBots Battle of the Rock Lords, and there was something else, a third movie like in the copy that we'd made, and I wore that fucker out. Yeah. That was like my jam.
Did they ever make an official release of the beta on
beta? No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, my dad did laser discs when I was a kid and into the 90s, and pretty familiar with them. If you want to find a good one, you want to find one that will flip for you. So the reader will actually like go on a track and go on the opposite side of the disc. Otherwise, like, you're going to get an hour into the movie and then it'll stop and you have to get up, take the big disc out, flip it around, put it back in the machine, and then start again.
Oh, well, that's just charming as hell. I want to do that.
And the higher quality of the movie, so when they started getting to like the really high end THX stuff like Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, like the home theater stuff, like at that point Laserdisc was by far and above the best. You would have that movie would take up like 5 discs, and it would just be, or like 3 discs, 5 sides total. So even with the Laserdisc that the player would flip the reader over for you, you still had to get up and change out the discs during the movie. So my dad would like arrange it so like the discs would be sitting against the entertainment center, ready to go. So it's really quick and easy to swap out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, unfortunately, they would wear out. Like, just given time, it wasn't how many times you watched a movie. It just faded the laser etching or whatever it was that would read it. So it's very likely whatever you purchase won't work. I'm not saying it definitely won't, but I'm just saying it's a high likelihood it won't work.
It's like Rob always says, entropy will always win. So
yeah.
I'm gonna have a whole bunch of really cool
frisbees,
paperweights. Well, I won't throw them. I gotta take care of them. But
yeah,
what are we talking about? Robots?
Oh, so the Transformers movie. So there's actually 2 copies on this. So they have a 4K version that I guess is in widescreen format that like cuts off part of the movie, right? Or a Blu-ray version that is full screen, right? I believe is the deal. And I guess that there's a whole debate on what the Hot Rod's color is, because each version of the movie has a slightly different color. coloration of Hot Rod. So that's awesome. So people are taking screenshots of that.
There's always been a debate, but I mean, it is answered. It's been answered for 35 years.
So what's the answer, Paul?
He's not red. I'll tell you that. He's not maroonish. He is some other hue than that. He is not what Phil just picked up. No. I mean, I guess that toy's a little closer than most, but and there's prototypes of the toy that show
the pink rod, yeah.
I mean, he's magenta, fuchsia, rose, pink, whatever you want to call it. He was never meant to be red. But then they were like, boys don't want this pink toy. Let's make him red.
I'll take your pink toy. Give me that pink rod all day.
Oh my God, I want that so bad. So bad. And we're not, lots of people do. Like lots of old timers that saw the movie in the theater, you know. Transformers tends to like attract detail-oriented, you know, personas. And even as kids, like a lot of people were like, hey, that guy was pink. Why is he red? But I think they just wanted to like match him closer to Rodimus Prime, because that was kind of the thing. He's like not quite bright red, but then when he turns into Rodimus Prime, like there's like that transition, and now he's
done cooking.
Yeah, he's well done.
Is this something where Transformers fans are more detail oriented, or Transformers fans have watched this movie so many times that they want spot on what's on the screen?
Well, I've
been a neurotic disaster since I was a small child.
Yeah, like I only saw it one time in the theater when I was like 6 or 5 or whatever. So even then I knew, it was like, hey, I thought he was pink. And don't even some of the catalogs show him as pinky?
Yeah, I think so.
So So then I didn't get the toy until I was much older, until I was like at least in college or something. And I was like, oh, he's not pink. What? No, he's red. Okay.
See, I think for me, seeing Rodimus so much in season 3 and staring so much at the catalog, the foldouts made me just, you know, change my memory of him that I think he is red.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that same way.
Yeah.
But there were prototypes of him as pink, and I remember when they were for sale, and I didn't buy one because I was like, I don't know, 20-something. But there was it was like before Facebook even, but like there was some post on a board somewhere, like someone was selling like 6 or 7 of the prototype Hot Rod. And I so wish I had the money back then to do that. But I didn't realize like what a big deal it was at the time.
We have to know somebody that owns one of those.
Yeah, they got to be in the hands of like pretty prominent people. But I've never like seen photos of one since.
Well,
like no one's
why
like,
don't
hey,
you
look
just
at my
ask
pink.
what's the new Transformers, or I'm sorry, the
Rare
new
Bots?
Facebook, the Rare Bots Facebook page.
I'm
I
sure.
wonder if he has one. It seems like he's got some crazy stuff he's been putting up every day.
He's probably automated his post for the next like year and a half, and it's maybe like, you know, scheduled sometime in 2022. So we'll get it. Although, you know, with the movie having, I couldn't believe how many posts there were like in the social media world about the movie like this past few days. It was crazy. Like, couldn't get away from it. You couldn't escape it.
Well, I mean, they had to put good flavors back in your mouth after Kingdom. So Transformers, the brand, was excited to share something positive that everyone wasn't going to completely shit on, which we discussed previously. You know, has its merits, has its issues, but Transformers the movie, for good or for bad, has its own issues, right? Its own merits, its own, like, you know, things that people have criticisms about. So you guys want to...
Well, those people are idiots.
Well, yeah, it's a perfect film.
Yeah.
So, but
The only one.
what? There's another perfect film. I've got some pre-production materials I'd like to share, but I have to go grab them. So start discussing. I'll jump in.
Just going to hold Studio Series Hot Rod up here.
Before time began, there was the Matrix. Okay, that wasn't even funny. Yeah, I love this movie. It's great. I just wonder what there is to say about it that hasn't been said to death. So I'm curious to see what we come up with tonight.
I was gonna say we'll find a way to.
I do wish Sergio had been able to join us tonight, because in the text group he was somewhat disparaging of it. It's like, oh, you guys only like it because it's G1. I'm like,
that's the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. When he said that.
You can't have this movie without it being G1. It can't have the impact on the fandom without it being G1.
Well, when did he see the movie himself? Like, I'm just curious.
He was born like a decade after this came out,
right.
So I don't know exactly when he saw it.
I didn't know if somehow he skipped the movie, like seeing the movie as a, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's kind of still a kid, but as a, like as a kid, like did he see this movie, or did he only see the, Transformers, the live action movies?
I mean, he has seen this movie, to my recollection. Right. When he saw it, at what point, I don't know. I mean, his for him, I think the start of things was more the Unicron trilogy. So, I mean, I don't know at what point he saw this movie in terms of his Transformers fandom experience, but I feel like it would be interesting just to have had another voice in this group, another opinion besides 30, 40 somethings that, either saw it in the theater or saw it, in their youths.
Yeah. Right. Agreed. I still think that was a really foolish thing to say, though. But he's not here to defend himself, so we'll have to bash him in private instead.
Yeah.
I get what he was trying to say, but, he said it wrong.
Right. Well, I feel like that he probably views some things through rose-colored glasses himself that we don't, because we saw certain things like, the Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, or, the Transformers live action movies as, when we were older. And so we were probably more critical of them than we would have been had we seen them as kids. And so that's the thing. I wonder, the Transformers animated movie, we can't get away from that ourselves. We first saw this movie when we were kids, so it's always forever. It's, kind of same thing as a lot of movies, the Ghostbusters movie or just whatever else, Well,
I look at it like, Disney is remaking all their movies in live action or CG or something. And if your kid's 5, 6, or 7, they likely are more apt to connect with the new movie than the old crusty animated movie, even though I love those old movies, but I grew up with them. So it has a lot to do with what your age is and what generation you were from. There's nostalgia around, this is a nostalgia show. So it's hard to get away from it.
Right.
Does this movie age better because it takes place in the future, so you don't have 80s car designs in it to make it feel as old?
Well, I mean, I definitely feel pretty old when it says it is the year 2005. I mean, it's just funny.
I get it. But if I hand my son this hot rod toy in car mode, he doesn't think of this as an old-fashioned car. It doesn't seem that way. So does it? So again, aside from the very blatant point where they say what year it is, does the movie age better because it's not steeped in 80s iconography?
It's a kind of a mixed thing, because it's the vehicle designs are more futuristic than not, but they're also retro futuristic. So it's synthwave music where it sounds like it's woo, but it also sounds bleh. That's not descriptive at all. It sounds like it's modern contemporary, electronic and neat, but it also sounds throwbacky and weird and kind of off. So it's looking at 1950s or 1960s sci-fi art where it's the future, but it looks so quaint. So I love Hot Rod's design, and I love Cup's design, and I love Blur's design, and I love RC's design and Springer's, but they look futuristic in a way that is kind of throwbacky and did at the time. So I don't know if that makes it age better or worse. I will say for me, the music locks it in as an 80s film without a doubt. Vince DiCola's score and then all that hair metal and Weird Al, like vintage Weird Al, just like no joke locks it in as a mid to late 80s film.
Dude, those first 5 minutes where you get this thing floating through space, you don't know what it is, a little bit of a ripoff of the Star Destroyer in Star Wars: A New Hope, but from a different angle, and it's obviously it's not a triangular spaceship. And then you got the Vince DiCola, just ominous music, and you see a planet get torn apart. You have no idea who these characters are. You have no idea what's going on. This is all new, all different, and then it kicks in to that 80s hair metal version of the Transformers theme. It might be a bad movie from a critical standpoint, but that first 5 minutes is still really just freaking great, and just sets this tone of like this is not what you've been watching like on after school syndicated cartoons. This is different. This is new. You're in for a bit of a ride.
Well, the first time I heard that heavy metal, well, I wouldn't call it heavy metal, but the 80s hair rock Transformers intro, it was like, and then you go through that tunnel, it was like, I was like, I'm growing older. And then they swore, it's like suddenly I aged up like instantly in the theater.
Well, I mean, I feel like, the quality of the animation, the quality of, the budget, like the story, all that type of thing were just a level above, what, any regular, Saturday morning cartoon or, afternoon cartoon would be. And so I think that's the thing. To me, I feel like it ages better than something like, say, for example, like He-Man. There was no He-Man animated movie. They had that live action movie back in the day, but or was there, Peter, and I'm misremembering?
The Secret of the Sword was released in theaters.
Okay, well, I apologize.
The She-Ra spin-off introduction movie was released in theaters, animated by Filmation with the same level of quality that you saw in the Filmation TV series, both for Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra and Princess of Power. Similarly, the GoBots theatrical film was done by just the TV crew with no upgrade in terms of quality from the syndicated show to the big screen, whatever. Transformers still animated by Toei Animation, but holy shit, they gave it to the A team. They were like, okay, guys, it's off of this, the weekday B team. We're going to give it to these guys, and they just cranked it right up.
Right. And so that's the thing. I feel like that if you're trying to explain to someone, like that you're into, this Transformers cartoon or whatever, it's much easier to put this movie on and say, here you go, versus, an episode of the G1 cartoon and whatnot. And, just the themes and all that type of thing were just, much like that further along, I guess, than just the regular cartoon.
I felt like as a kid watching it that they upped the ante significantly. I mean, they did. They killed off characters. They killed off Prime. And I think that's one of the reasons why this has more staying power than, say, the G.I. Joe movie. Duke didn't really die in the G.I. Joe movie. Yeah, they did a similar thing where they introduced new characters, but it didn't have the weight that this movie did. And as much as people complain about, like, oh my God, I cried, my childhood was ruined because you killed Optimus Prime, it's like, but you remember it and it sticks with you and you rewatch it over and over again. And how many people can say that about the G.I. Joe movie? Now, granted, I am not a gigantic G.I. Joe fan, but that's not something that I will watch over and over. I'll watch the intro credits to the G.I. Joe movie because that's awesome. But as a whole, the G.I. Joe movie, I kind of, meh.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking about with this episode is that, because I heard that sentiment a lot, and from people that like weren't, were just, not necessarily the crazy Transformer fans. They were just, general fans of, 80s properties and whatnot. And they had talked about the fact that they used to watch the Transformers cartoon and whatnot, and then they go to the theater, they're excited about the Transformers movie, and then, oh my God, all their favorite characters die, and it spoiled them for the brand, and they like quit watching the series. And so that's where I kind of want to go with tonight, besides just talking about the movie in general, was like, is it something that, did it help the brand continue on? Or was it something that, like, where, we may have gotten, more years of the G1 cartoon had, like, they just continued on with the original cast rather than killing them off?
I want to say on that note, the talk of the school when school got back in 86 was the movie, and oh shit, they killed everybody, blah 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 blah, and then Five Faces of Darkness happened, and it wasn't like some fever dream. The movie time skipped the series, and all these characters are just gone now, and they've been replaced by Green Helicopter Man and Red Car Leader Guy, and we knew their names obviously, but it was like, where are Blue Streak and Mirage and Huffer and Bombshell and whoever? They're just gone, and I remember kids in the schoolyard, figuratively speaking, just saying, I'm done, bailing. I don't like these characters. The toys are not what I want. To the futuristic cartoon or the futuristic alt mode look, they weren't into it. They were into cars that you can see on the street that turned into robots. They weren't into green block thing that turns into helicopter green block thing that turns into green block robot man. I was into that shit, but not everyone else was. And I watched my friends one by one bail on Transformers until I was like the last kid standing. So yeah.
Well, and the other thing I wonder too is that, a lot of the Transformers, like all the characters you talked about, are all more expensive price point characters. So like if you're trying to go to the store to get, whatever, like, oh, I just saw Ultra Magnus, like he's really cool, like I really love him. And then you go to the store and it's, I don't know how much, whatever the price point was
30
back in the day, $30, whatever.
30.
You're like, well, I can't get like $30. That's Christmas present. That's birthday present. That's not like, oh, hey mom, just run to the store. Like, but when I had Bumblebee, I could have just ran to the store and it was, it's $5 or whatever,
But now you had Wheelie.
And on that note, Wheelie was the only one that was at the entry mini vehicle price point that was available in stores that you saw on TV screens, however infrequently. You didn't see Hubcap or Swerve or Tailgate, or Pipes was on occasionally. Who else?
Outback
Hubcap never showed up. I'm sorry?
Outback,
thank you. He was on, 4 episodes in season 3? And I think only 2 of them were speaking roles. But
I mean, Australia does exist in outer space.
It does. That's a Nebulan accent. They established that in Cybertron 25 years real time later or whatever. But yeah, the kid friendly price point people frequently weren't on the show unless they were combiner limbs, and the combiners did show up in season 3. I don't know, yeah. But all the ones that you had just spent all of your money on and asked for Christmas and agonized over for birthdays and Christmas for the last 2.5 years, they're all dead. Literally dead. And they're going to have an episode where they revisit their corpses. And yeah, your friends are dead. Have fun with that, kids.
Right.
Jazz made it.
He did, but then Scatman Crothers didn't make it. So then Jazz became Monka Spenka and never was seen again.
Yep. Monka.
But he was in the end credits from his little scene in Five Faces of Darkness.
Yes, he was.
He's always got a little taste of jazz.
Yep.
But that's Monka.
I mean, in the end credits, it's not speaking; he's just running and transforming. So,
dude, I don't want to hear about your headcanon. That is Monka Spanka.
Okay. I feel like with my friends, they were into it. Like my friend, I saw the movie in the theater with one of my best friends. We walked out of that theater just like, wah! Like my cousins are around the same age as me. I was super jealous that my, they got like Hot Rod, and then I think Hot Rod and Blur they got for Christmas that year, and I got Galvatron. And so like I was super jealous that they got the heroes. Like Galvatron was cool, but like his alt modes weren't the most fun to play with as a kid, as opposed to super fast race cars. But
he had elbows.
To me, what I think diminished Transformers a little bit was Ninja Turtles. I would say would be the thing that kind of killed Transformers for a lot of my friends.
I moved in the summer of 1989, and before I moved, like a couple of years before, there were a couple of friends, myself included, that were still hanging on to Transformers through Headmasters in '87 and into '88 with the Pretenders and whatnot. But when I moved from Alaska to Arkansas in the summer of '89, getting to Arkansas and trying to make friends and all that stuff, I was 8. No one gave a shit about Transformers. They were all into Turtles. That's all they cared about. There was no bleed over. There was no Transformers. Where are you from? And it's like, Transformers. They're the best robots in disguise and cool. But no, it was dead by then. So I don't know. Yeah, there was a sea change where there was a definite. I mean, obviously the cartoon was done by '89, but there was a sea change in children's attitudes.
You just had that with a lot of those 80s toys. I mean, Masters of the Universe was gigantic, and then it just tanked. G.I. Joe and Transformers had much longer shelf lives, like literally being on the shelves for much longer. I mean, it just they had much better staying power. They I think both, Transformers especially was able to do new things to sort of rebrand themselves. But I think the dark side of Transformers, I don't know if that's a bad thing, because my friends and cousins that were into G.I. Joe, like they got big into the comic books, and it's like, oh yeah, you like Quick Kick? Yeah, he's dead in the comic book. Yeah, the cartoon, no, he's dead. Don't worry about what happened in the cartoon. Like he got blown up real good in the comic book. Like this is the real thing. So there was certainly a hunger for that sort of darker, edgier, consequence-filled side of these brands. And Transformers gave it to us in this movie, and G.I. Joe gave it to the kids in the comics.
G.I. Joe gave it to the kids in the comics after years of killing off high-then-die characters. People who were introduced just to die in that issue. Oh, here's, generic guy like Mangler. Mangler was an issue of Special Missions. He showed up, was introduced. He's going to be the new Joe, and they make him seem super cool, and then they kill him at the end of the issue. In issue 108 of the main A Real American Hero line, I think book, I think it was 1990, 91. They killed 7 named toy Joes in that issue alone. They killed off a bunch of vehicle drivers, Heavy Metal, and Crankcase, and I'm gonna forget and Thunder, and then they killed off Breaker, who's one of the original 13, and Crazy Legs, and I'm losing it. Quick Kick died there, but yeah. So Larry Hama, and people were asking for it and had been for years in the letters pages, like, when are we going to have realistic war? Because war has consequences and war has casualties. And this is 1991, 4 or 5 years after Transformers the movie had killed a bunch of robots. They didn't kill a bunch of Joes in the G.I. Joe movie. G.I. Joe movie was animated and written first and had to be changed in production because of the negative backlash after it got pushed a year after Prime died and was dead. They had to change Duke so he wasn't dead.
He was just sleeping.
He was just he's gone into a coma. Duke is awake now and everything is fine, but we won't show him. Goodbye. Okay, cool. So I don't know, the value of consequential death in our animated properties or comic book properties, it varies in terms of the weight for the reader or for the viewer. And I guess it depends on your age too, because there were kids that were messed up by Prime and Ironhide being brutally freaking murdered on screen, and then the kids that weren't.
Watching the life almost literally ebb out of Prowl's face.
Well, the light literally dies in Prime, so you can see him flicker out. There he goes, and then his corpse turns gray, and it's like, oh, Oh well, okay, that's yeah. Kyle's
I've
torso
said,
was on fire.
I've said this a few times, but like that, you watch an entire genocide of a race on a planet to start the movie, and it like you're like, what? Oh my goodness! And then here comes the rock music. You're like, oh, okay, everything's cool, I guess, right? And then that moment where he shoots Prowl, and instead of like, bing, or whatever you're expecting, like, oh, it knock over something, it goes through him, and you're like, oh, like that.
And his face erupts, like smoke and fire come out of his face. It's like, oh no.
I mean, I wish I could like see myself in the theater, because I'm sure I just like had the like big widest eyes I've ever had in my life when that happened. I was just like, oh no. This is a real movie. This is, oh no. You're like, if there were seatbelts in the theater chair, I would have put them on very quickly right then. And
he didn't die.
So.
He's just vaping.
Oh, that dude. Man, I mean, this movie was so awesome. It's just unreal. It's the biggest like happy accident, I feel like, of all sci-fi 80s culture things, because like they didn't know. I mean, they thought they were just moving on to the next phase of the brand. They didn't really like. They weren't thinking like, oh man, in 10 years, this is gonna, it wasn't a long play. It turned out to be one. You can't plan this sort of thing. It's like a zeitgeist Black Swan moment, and the world's never been. I mean, the world, like we've never been the same,
right?
And the toy industry hasn't either. And this is why they kill Optimus Prime all the time, because now it's a trope.
Exactly. They set the tone for Prime dies and comes back. Prime he's robot Jesus or something. That's not what I want. Okay, whatever. Give me some toys.
I'm sure Judd Nelson didn't think when he was recording those lines that 30 years later he'd be doing conventions for that role.
Doing conventions.
I'm sure he was excited about that.
He was doing lots of things while at the convention.
Yeah, he certainly was.
I wasn't there. I've just heard stories. So.
Oh, it's on YouTube. It's out there.
Yeah. There's enough evidence. But yeah, joking aside, I'm sure the vast majority of people involved in that did not think they were making this cult classic, film that would be disregarded.
Nope. Because it was just a job for everyone, I mean,
yeah.
Peter, maybe but like, how soon when they made the first season of G1, like, was it concurrent with this, or was it
concurrent with the start of production of the movie? Yeah, that's why most of the season 2 characters aren't there. The only season 2 characters that you do see that were season 2 characters are the Coneheads, which were already in the pipe, and Hauler. Hauler shows up, during the final exchange during the Battle of Autobot City before Devastator rips open the wall or whatever. The defenses are broken. But and even like Siskel and Ebert had made a comment on that when they reviewed Transformers the movie. They said something to the effect of, this Transformers movie, it went into production to capitalize on the release of the GoBots movie, which had come out a couple of months prior. But the GoBots movie was like animated in an afternoon in Burbank, and the Transformers movie had been in production for 2 years in Japan. So,
well, the world wasn't really ready for anime back then, and I was thinking about this a lot the past few days, and I kind of went on this weird 80s anime kick, and maybe a lot of people consider this, but like Transformers the movie is definitely an anime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's all, it's like fronted by American companies and meant for American audiences, but it's like kind of the first, maybe not the first, but it was like a completely Japanese driven stylistic thing from their culture that we like transposed, just like the toy line, really.
Yeah, we ganked it. It was ours. Like, now it's like we swooped all the toys, and then we're like, now you need to make this. Make a cartoon based on this. Go. Here's all of our production materials. Just make it. Do it. Do it your way.
Yeah, and that to me is like the magic of the whole thing, because it could have been like the GoBots movie. It could have just been a afterthought, but no, like there was real passion put into it. I mean, I guess I liked Nelson Shin should probably get some props. He's the director, really.
He's the director of the film, and then he owns ACOM Animation, so he gets props for the movie, and then he gets negative points for season 3. And the nonsense that was going on with, I'm sure he got a sweet deal. Like, I directed the movie, I should get the next full season minus the 7 or 8 episodes that Toei is going to do. And then, Sunbow was like, yeah, you can have it. That's fine. And then almost all the ACOM stuff looks awful. Just awful. It looks like GoBots. Oh boy, I'm sure they saved a lot of money and made a lot of money, but man, season 3 would have looked better and felt better if it looked and felt like season 1.
Agreed.
And I think that's something that you look at the reviews and the critics' response to this movie, like, oh, it's just a big advertisement. It's like, that's what all cartoons were at the time, were giant advertisements for toys. Like, I mean, I don't know, I get it. Like, is it a good advertisement for the toy? That's almost how I think you need to judge some of this stuff. Like, does it motivate, the kids to go out there and do what it's trying to do, which is sell toys? For me, it certainly did. But does it have substance beyond that? Like, my wife watched this in the theaters with me and my son when it was in the theaters a couple of years back, and she was just like, this is nonsense. Like, I get it, it's nonsense, but it just, it's one of these movies that if you look at it scene by scene, there are scenes that are really fun and really entertaining, and then the connective tissue between the scenes is like, it's pretty weak.
I mean, I guess so. I just know it by heart so much that my brain connects any dots that aren't there. But like what exactly do you think is missing, or like what is nonsensical? I mean, there's some crazy time skips and stuff, but
yes.
Like the Decepticons are instantly in the atmosphere of Earth after they left another planet but they used a space bridge, didn't they?
Warp gate.
Yeah. Just explain it with the space bridge. It's fine.
Yeah, sci-fi talk. Just sci-fi talk. I think that is part of it. Is how much these interstellar space travel is just like, yeah, we got there really quick, and this is a movie that feels like should be taking place over the matter of like a week or so, and probably takes place in the matter of a few hours.
That is definitely like a good criticism, I think. Yeah. From an adult standpoint, yeah, they if you were in the world of Game of Thrones, they jetpacked all over the universe in this movie. But as a kid, it totally worked in my brain.
Yeah, who cared? You got to the next action sequence, and that's what you really cared about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Movies for kids and adults are two different things,
Yeah.
Well, it's just like Star Wars,
Yeah.
Turn on the warp drive, okay. I guess
light speed,
Yeah.
dumbass.
Whatever.
Are warp drives in Star Trek?
Star Trek, yeah. Filthy casual.
Whatever. It's all the same made up bullshit.
Go back to your farm fields in Iowa, you hick.
Got plenty of warp drives out there.
Did we lose Peter, or did he?
He said, "Be right back."
He had to take a quick one.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, are there any other examples, Phil, you can think of from? Just I don't know. It was interesting that you said that, and I'm like, oh, what is he actually talking about? Like, what is the nonsense?
Junkion scene and party to her was really like, what is happening, and why is this happening?
That they all just start dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my son was like practically dancing in the aisles of the movie theater at that point, so he was having a grand old time. So again, she is not the target audience. She is jaded and never liked this stuff to begin with. I was shocked when she said she'd come with us to go see it. Really didn't anticipate that response being positive. but no, she hung out and watched it with us, and I think it was one of those things that, you know, she didn't necessarily enjoy herself, but she enjoyed seeing our son have so much fun. And I think he had seen it before, maybe not all the way through with me, like in, you know, just watching it on TV, but it was, yeah, it's not a perfect movie, and I don't think anyone who's a fan of it tries to claim it as such, but it is. When you compare it to its peers, it's so much better than what its peers were. And there were a lot of peers, like Peter just mentioned, the GoBots movie, the G.I. Joe movie, you know, even for more girly brands, you know, the Care Bears, the My Little Pony movies. Like, they did this a lot in the 80s. And, you know, yeah, most of those things lost their company's money. This one, you know, probably up front did. I think, you know, once you start looking at VHS sales, this movie probably made Hasbro, you know, and the production company some cash. But yeah, it you know, the vast majority of those movies don't have the staying power that this one did. Again, I might be wrong because I'm not like maybe the My Little Pony fan base is like, no, dude, that 80s movie rocks. If you disparage it, we will come and hunt you down. You know, so I don't know that fan base as well. I do know the Transformers fan base, but this is not a movie that the Transformers fan base looks at with much negative, you know, aspects, unless you're a younger fan who didn't live it.
Well, I mean, over the years, this has to have been a profitable decision.
Oh yeah.
I mean, without this movie, we wouldn't be here today.
It's like,
yeah, they re-release it all the time now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
So
they don't do that every few years to lose money on it. I mean, they, you know,
right.
Long term, it has to have been a really good investment. And I'm saying beyond that, like, it is an invaluable asset to Hasbro.
Yeah.
Well, and I think once again, you know, like you said, like you can point to like Star Wars, you know, that's the original movies, but I mean, those are a different beast, but like you can't really point to many other movies, you know, that are 35 years old. Like, I mean, most of the stuff from the 80s just did not age that well. So, I mean, the fact that this even holds up and that we're even, you know, going to the theaters to see it again, you know, whenever it comes out, it's like.
Are you going to go see it at the Fathom event?
Probably. I mean, it just depends on, you know, what's going on with COVID at the time, but tentatively, our local Transformers group is planning to, when the Fathom one comes out, that we're gonna see it. Are you guys planning on Chicago or?
We haven't. No one's brought it up. It comes out on my birthday, but I probably won't. I mean, I've seen it a billion times. I bought the Blu-ray, but I can't really watch it right now. I mean, I would go as a social thing. That's it. I don't like need to go support or anything. The brand, like, they're good.
Right.
But it would be kind of fun. I think it would be kind of fun. But yeah, with the COVID stuff, it's like I really don't care that much to see it 127th time or whatever it is.
Easily over 1,000 for me. Easily. I used to watch
4 digits.
Yeah, easily. I might go.
What's the runtime on that?
78 minutes or something. It's really short.
Well, having seen it so many times, Peter, are there any like lesser known parts or things that happen in a scene or anything that like you would feel are worth pointing out that people might not have noticed?
Beachcomber's in the movie.
Not sure if I knew that off the top of my head.
Beachcomber's in the movie, and the last time you see him, it's not the last time he shows up in the series, but the last time you see him in the movie, he's on the conveyor getting ready to be dropped into the acid in Unicron. And there's also another Bumblebee animated behind Bumblebee. So is that Bumper? Does Bumper die in the movie? I don't know, whatever. Neat.
Peter, by the way, I just did some quick math, and you've spent 54 days watching this movie approximately.
I would spend way more than that if I were given the chance.
You have spent almost 2 months of your life just watching this movie. And that's if your 1,000 is the under versus, you know, going somewhere over.
I would say that's the under. Yeah.
There's one. The first time I saw it in a theater, like since the first time I saw it in the theater when I was a kid, I did notice a few things, and the one thing I can remember that like I remember is that when the Revenge is flying away from Unicron,
Cyclonus is flying up.
Yeah, but Galvatron is actually on the front of the ship, like going like this, like he's standing on the front of.
He's not going like this. His arms are down, but he's clearly standing there. Those are his shoulder pylons, if anything. Yeah, but he's clearly there on the front of the ship.
Yeah, that was something like that was a detail I had never seen until it was like huge in front of me in a theater, and I was like, holy cow! Didn't think there was anything new in this movie, but there's plenty of stuff that like jumps out after many watches.
Well, like on the original, on the VHS print at least, there was that when Unicron's processing Lithone and he's like chomping and the electricity, there's that sound blurb. It goes, and when it finally came out on VHS in the mid '90s, when the shit version was released at long last, they fixed it. And so in my head, even now, it sounds wrong. Because it should be as the music continues.
Paul and I have discussed that same exact thing multiple times.
It's one of those things. It's burned into your memory, and you can't get it out.
What's funny is I thought I had kind of a jinky VHS copy of it, and that's why that sound was there.
Nope, that was everyone's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great because I know exactly what you mean.
What else? Is there anything else? I mean, the chin beard disappearing and reappearing on Unicron, eject and rewind both flickering colors as they hop out of blaster. Obvious double frenzy if we're doing cartoon frenzy color rules. I don't know. I mean, there's also, we could talk about animation errors, but there are just literally hundreds in the film. Shortcuts.
I'm trying to fix them, but it's such a long process, and I've started over multiple times because they keep coming up with better versions of the source material. I'm like, it's like twice as big now. I can fix it better.
I mean, to be fair, Paul, like these new versions are coming out like every 5 years. It's not like it's they're coming out right after each other.
This is. Yeah, I mean, this has been a multi-year project, and I've lost. Like the best scene I fixed was I fixed eject and rewind in that scene. And I was like, and it looked so awesome when it was done. I was like, oh my God, this all tracks and it's like exactly the right dudes. But I guess my laptop got stolen in like 2008 or 2009 out of my car, and I think that's where I lost that finished scene. So it's
you're gonna find that on a thumbstick in the year 2005.
No, I won't. It's gone. I have some of my original renders, but like that one is really gone.
Just kidding. Thumbsticks in 2008 were only 2 megs. So.
Yeah.
But like I wanted to do it for a BotCon and like see if they would let me finish it, like redo Redux or whatever the film, and like see if they would let me show it. Like
the blue-haired lawyer is going to come in and give you that C&D, man. He's going to be like,
let him try. Someday I'll get it done. I have a few good scenes.
I mean, BotCon is coming back, I think. So, or kind of.
That's a different show.
I'm just hoping we get TFCon still this year.
Yeah, with Delta doing what it's doing, I say I want to see the movie in theaters next month, but I'm in Florida and it is a shit show. Again, we're setting daily records, like blowing out last year's daily records when it was, the surge and all that stuff. Holy crap, our state is stupid, and my governor is a freaking dumbass.
I mean, at least. Well, no, wait. TFCon's not in Chicago. It's in Baltimore. Right?
Baltimore.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. So one thing that I was curious about. We're at the point now for anniversaries where it's like, who gives a crap about 35? Like when you talk about like 35th anniversary, like no one really cares. Like once you get past 20, 25, I feel like then you kind of start going by decade. So like And even then, it's like, will they give us something new at the 40th anniversary? Especially if there isn't. You're probably right, but if there isn't any kind of technological upgrade, I don't like. I didn't get the 4K version.
Well, if someone could fix all the animation errors and give them to the studio, maybe that would be worth releasing.
Well, someone needs to actually do their job instead of doing their job, and then you can fix it.
Is that something, because Sunbow doesn't exist anymore and it's not a Marvel Productions thing anymore? The animation itself belongs to Toei, but does it? It becomes a really complicated like legal snafu as to, I mean, ultimately ownership of the brand is Hasbro, so whoever would be working on the movie would have to go through them and let their lawyers do the wrangling. I'm sure Rick would have all sorts of insight on that process. And the hurdles that go along with it. I don't know if you guys know, but he used to be the brand manager for Transformers, and he's a cast member of the show, and we love him. And he would have been good to have on today.
No way.
Yeah, I know. Jaw dropper. I know. I just like to share these things.
Like Bruce Wayne.
But I can't imagine what they would do for a 40th anniversary other than just repackage it again, and get our money, because some of us can't resist. Hopefully in another 5 years we'll be able to resist.
Well, there's not really like what new could they do unless they do like another retro commentary, with different people. Like, I don't know if you ever, the 20th anniversary had the commentary with like Susan Blue and Flint Dille and Nelson Shin, which I thought was pretty cool. Yep. That's worth a listen.
Yeah,
and there's the fan site one as well, which I mean is pretty cool. So they would have to like create like new content like that, because there's nothing left on the cutting room floor. I mean, there's just nothing there.
You make it 3D. I mean, I'm not kidding. I say that with some tongue in cheek, but like the 3D technology where you'll be able to put on like VR glasses, goggles, whatever, and watch it as like a VR 3D sort of thing. Like maybe that's not in 5 years, but maybe for the 45th anniversary, that's a thing. I don't know, man.
Sure. I don't either. Yeah. No stupid ideas here.
Someone on Instagram, and I've seen it shared on a Facey page or whatever, has been animating the unused screenplay scenes from the Battle of Autobot City. Mirage shooting Bombshell in the back, the other stuff involving Devastator fighting Smokescreen and Magnus and Red Alert, Red Alert getting shot and killed, just all that stuff that has been in screenplay form, or I'm sorry, storyboard form. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm misspeaking. The storyboards that have been out forever and ever. Those have been out in the public for a while, but someone's actually animating them and making them look. They're not like obviously movie quality, but it's fun to see them, in action, if you will.
Doesn't Ultra Magnus use his shoulder rockets in that?
Yep. Yeah. When fighting Devastator. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean that would be cool if they just said, you know what, we're gonna commission new footage, just make new footage, and like we're gonna do our damnedest to make it look retro. That would be awesome.
Seamless. Try and make it as seamless as possible. Fit it in. I mean, and that's the thing is like the movie is only 78 minutes ish. It doesn't even hit the 90-minute mark because there were entire chunks of the plot that were ripped out of like Blaster and those guys running off to do something involving the tentacles of Unicron that were sucking the energy from Earth. I don't know. It's in like earlier draft stuff, and it just got dropped completely, and then they didn't replace it with anything. So the movie's short. So it would be neat to. I mean, even the Lucas, you keep saying Transformers the animated movie. When I hear Transformers animated movie, I hear Transformers animated, and then they never made an animated movie. But I know what you're saying. The time that it was called Transformers the animated movie was when IDW did their comic book retelling or whatever of it back in 2006, 2007, and it was called Transformers the animated movie. It was 2007 because it was concurrent with the first Bay movie, I believe. But they plugged in just a not throwaway line. They're like, where's Superion and where's Defensor and where's Omega Supreme? Why are we caught so unawares? The Autobot City being attacked like this, and then the scene shifts over to the Ark in the Volcano headquarters, and like Omega Supreme, Defensor, and Superion are there, like fending off an attack. I don't know if you guys talked on this. School starts tomorrow, so I wandered off for a second. The combiners and Omega Supreme are warding off an attack from the Decepticon combiners who also weren't in the movie, barring Devastator. So that explains
they were scrambling the city.
Right.
Yeah.
So that explains like where.
Yeah, that was a cool touch in that comic.
Yeah.
That was neat.
So what you're saying is that we need the Snyder cut of the Transformers the animated movie.
Release the Dilly cut.
the Dilly cut. So Ron had that same idea, but he said that they'll have to re-record the voices with the War for Cybertron cast.
Yeah.
It'll go well over that 78-minute mark. We'll be into like 3 hours. That will be as long as the Snyder cut if they do that.
Yeah, just the voices alone.
I like this idea though. Vince
throw away your life.
So Vince is still around. He can make new tracks, because it would really suck if they did that and like just duplicated like existing score. Although there is extra score that wasn't in the film.
Yeah, the legacy track, and there's a bunch of stuff and he's released variations on things and done like medleys and things that are worth a listen. So if you want, you should check that stuff out. But yeah, I'm sure if you just like said, hey, we can hire you for this gig, make it work, he would go for it.
Yeah,
I feel like if Hasbro were to do that, like do this soon, because some of these people are already dead, and that list of people who were involved in this movie and how many of them are still alive is going to continue to shrink.
Blur's still out there. We can do the Blur scene.
Yeah.
We can't. Magnus has no more lines.
Nope. Blur, Hot Rod, RC.
Springer.
If Hot Rod has more lines, it'll be like, whoa, he aged like 30 years in a scene and he's back.
Why does he have a smoker's cough now?
Oh.
This is great.
You have to do all the scenes with him as Rodimus just so it kind of makes sense that he sounds older.
Oh, Rodimus Prime. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. This is fun. Like, this is like the concept of new movie stuff that would actually be new to us. Like, that's exciting to me. Just even to think about that. Oh, wow, that could be possible. That would be so neat.
I mean, I think that's one thing that's a big difference between this franchise and, say, Star Wars. Is Star Wars has had one continuity. They've sort of rebooted it, a couple times. You've had all the expanded stuff that doesn't always fit, but Transformers continuously reboots their continuity, so you don't get this, and what about this part of the story? What about that part of the story? It doesn't work like that sort of thing. So it's this is kind of what we have to do, is these little pipe dreams.
Well, it's unfortunately a fiction second brand. That's
yeah,
the difference.
I mean, Masters of the Universe is revisiting their original story.
I enjoyed the Motu reboot. And for our thoughts on Kingdom, tune in to our previous episode. Was it previous episode?
I think it was the last one.
Yeah, it was last week's.
Yeah.
They all had glowing opinions of it. It certainly kept us all conscious the entire time.
Good.
I saw something fan made that was like just for fun, but it like kind of got me excited. It was like a Game Boy Advance pixelated version of Unicron. The scene where Megatron floats into Unicron, and it was like a little. It was an animated GIF someone made, but it was cool because it had like a little voice, like a little window pops up, and it's Unicron, and it says like his lines, like it's like a cut scene for an RPG or something, and it was like question mark, I've summoned you here for a purpose, and then Megatron's thing comes up and he says, "Who said that?" And then he becomes says his name, Unicron and stuff. I was like, oh, that would be a fun game.
You're grounded.
Yeah, I don't get the lanes, but whatever. It was such a cool thing because I've always wished they would do some sort of just play-by-play, scene-by-scene video game of this movie. Like, I know they did it for like the Warriors, the movie The Warriors. They made a whole game where you run through and play out the movie, and I was like, oh my god, I wish they would do that for Transformers the movie. Because the battle Autobots, you could run around Autobot City during the battle and do all sorts of cool stuff that didn't happen in the movie, but could have.
And Unicron just comes and says, "Hey guys."
Yeah. You put in the Contra code, and that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, video games that are doing that sort of thing now. So I don't know. I don't know if those kinds of video games are kind of cheaper and easier to make, or if I just don't know anything about video games, which is accurate. But it seems like that would not be the hardest thing to do.
I also don't know anything about video games, and I consistently wonder why we don't have a good game. I tried to like Devastation. I really tried to like Devastation, but it wasn't.
I was gonna say, I feel like Devastation was kind of the, I don't know, like a little bit of a G1 art style, and I mean, it felt a little bit like an episode of Transformers, not exactly, but
it tried really hard to be a love letter to G1, and it was not. Not to me anyway. It was too big and too epic, and took if you want to do a G1 game, slot it into the movie, retell an episode, or slot something in between 1985 and 2005. Do something in that middle area where all the characters are already there, and just have fun with it. Make it not consequence free, add some weight to it, but have fun with it. Yeah,
I feel like the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron games sort of did that, where it's like, right, we're going to do a game during Cybertronian times. You're going to have these G1 characters, but this is not part of a story that has been explored to that extent. And I thoroughly enjoyed both those games.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like now that as games, the cost of developing games is much higher than it used to be. I feel like that Hasbro's kind of went the route of, mobile games and things like that. I don't know. I never even touched whatever that last game is that just came out. What do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, God. The one that came out in the last year?
Yeah. I don't remember what the name is.
The Cyberverse game?
The one that came out on Switch? Yeah, I bought that and threw it in a tote.
Yeah. It did not look good, so
I don't remember if I even saw any gameplay, trailers for that.
Yeah. And then when's the new games coming out that's like the Pokemon game, kind of like that?
Fall?
Yeah.
That's Heavy Metal, whatever. Yeah. Heavy Metal War or something.
I saw something on Twitter.
What's that? I want Sammy Hagar to do the theme soundtrack for that.
Can't do 55?
No, like heavy metal.
Yeah, I call it heavy metal. Yeah. I saw something on Twitter. Speaking of game-ish looking stuff, and speaking of VR type, like that's like a string. I don't know what that is. Anyway, someone's animating like the G1 toys running around in like real world VR situations. That would be a fun game. I would play the hell out of a 5-inch tall Optimus Prime toy that drove around a playground or had to get across the street to take a donut to a whoever, It
was like Toy Story meets 80s Transformers.
Yeah. I would play the hell out of that. I think it's kitschy enough and quirky enough and looks fun enough to keep my attention for more than most of the modern games would.
Make it a bunch of little mini games, and every month you come out with a new mini game that'll cost you $7-8
with new characters and new toys to play with. That way you're playing with your Gen 1 toys. You don't have to spend a fortune on the Gen 1 toys, and keep our interest.
Yeah. They get to the ultimate, man, this thing's really been popular. We're bringing in Quick Switch. It's a 6-week epic that each week you get a new
different
mode of Quick Switch.
I mean,
does his head break off as a bonus?
They did. I mean, I know they've had a few of the characters where you can scan them into games. I think RID did that. I think.
Yeah, Red 15 did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't play that one either. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah.
At New York Comic Con, I designed my character for that video game that they never made for that
it came out.
Thing.
It came out in China. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It never came out in the States.
Yeah.
And a few of us, signed up for stuff and design characters, and then just like.
Yeah. Well, they had a big like promotional display for it in New York Comic Con that year, and I don't normally go to New York Comic Con. I've only been to it once, and that was that year that had I don't want to say life size Prowl, but it was like as tall as me Prowl from that movie or that game.
13, right?
No, it was 11. It was 2011. Yeah, it was 2011 because I went to San Diego in 2010. I went to New York Comic Con in 2011. Got talked into a timeshare while we were in New York, and then did that timeshare vacation to Hawaii in 2012. So I remembered my Hawaii vacation in 2012. That's why I can backtrack that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the beta was released, but it didn't actually get released after the beta. That's
not the beta movie.
No, Zelda was saying he was part of the US beta for the online. So
Paul was just giving weird looks, so I think he thought we were talking about the beta movie again.
We were talking about Betamax earlier, so I was very confused.
That was earlier. We're, circling back around here. So.
Yeah. We jumped some 25 years in the Transformer timeline there, Paul.
Yeah, I see. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this pixel art thing I was talking about because it was so cool, but now it's like that's the problem with social media. You see it and it's gone.
Yeah. Peter, earlier like you went to go get some stuff. Like what were you getting?
Oh, yeah, I got this. It's a folder with the pre-production materials. It's a press kit. It's a press kit from the movie, and it includes I mean, I don't know.
This is for the GoBots movie, is what it
Wait,
looks
GoBots
like, right?
movie? That's not what we're talking about.
Holding up.
Oh, this is not the movie we're talking about. No, it's a press kit. It's got first GoBots movie. They boldly say the first GoBots movie is to open March 21st, as though there's going to be another GoBots movie. And it's got, I mean, it's this, I don't know, it's nice, like paper, it's quality stuff. I don't know. Hanna-Barbera invented the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, and the Flintstones. It shows that we're not toy derivative. Our tradition is not to base shows on toys, so all this is a new thing for us. But we try to make GoBots distinctly their own characters, so it wouldn't be a show derived from toys. And they talk about how it's a science fiction epic.
It literally says that. This is not derived from toys.
Yeah, it also says the writer, an interview with the writer. It says 1985 could very well be described as the year of transforming robots, with GoBots leading the way. It has
they were right.
Your cast list, and it has some, everything says Clubhouse Pictures, which is the company that released it. It's in this delightful folder from Clubhouse Pictures, which has all the, the watermarks and things on it. What else? Oh, there's some nice photo stock pictures from the show or from the movie of not actual, like, they're just like pre-production photos of like concepts and things. Some of these things, I mean, these aren't like cells or anything from the film. They're just depictions of scenes that happen at various points in the film. The Transforming Robots film. And these pictures, yeah, it's fun. I was able to get the original slides of the pictures. So these are all full color versions of, I don't know, there's no light. Can you see that? It's the same picture, it's just with color. And they're neat. Wow. So I've got that. And I've got a reel of the trailer somewhere So everyone's favorite transforming movie, robots thing from 1986. I've got your production materials. And I've scared away Paul.
Wait. Do you have anything to play that reel on?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's going to be his next purchase after the Laserdisc player.
Got to start hitting the pawn shops and looking for a Laserdisc player.
So, Paul, you said that what was the Transformers, the movie pixel art? You said was
I did
Art
find
Likes
it.
Robots on Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah, at Art Likes Robots on Twitter. Apparently, he does a whole bunch of stuff, but this particular tweet is called "A Meeting," and I don't know. It's pretty cool. If we could show it on screen, we would, but we can't. So
yeah,
that's extracurricular, folks. To go check that out. Takes like
homework.
10 seconds to look at. Very cool. I would love to see this guy do more of these, like do the whole movie in this style, and I would watch it.
that's fun.
So,
well,
I mean, are we gonna get? Do you guys have any hope that we'll get something that feels like this again from Transformers? The way the brand has been, let's say, since Transformers the movie came out, do you ever feel like we will get some? So let me ask two questions. Has any of this stuff that's come out in, like, let's say the last 20 years felt anything like this movie did? Or do you think that we will get anything like this movie in relative near future?
I said it last week when reviewing Kingdom that I hope that things continue to improve in the mediascape for Transformers, because everything is so polarizing and so, divisive or whatever. And I hope that whether it's a cartoon or a movie or whatever coming out, that there is something that unites us and makes us all one, and we all, whether we love it or hate it, it's the thing that we talk about and the thing we remember moving forward. Transformers the movie was able to do that for whatever, whether it's because they killed all your friends and your heroes and taught you horrible lessons that everything is impermanent, heroes die terrible, pointless, meaningless deaths, and you should move forward and be humble because you're just going to fucking die, or because you make new friends and life is okay because you got potential, you got the touch. But in the near future, I don't see that happening. Transformers media Hasbro likes to go cheap on it, and they like to not release a good product, and that's what they're cool with because they're going to make their money anyway.
I was definitely hoping when the first movie came out that it would be like this, or have that be what you are asking, Phil. And I'm not going to say it wasn't, because I think time still hasn't had its complete tenure with the Bayverse. It's still out there. It still exists. So in 10, 15 years, when we're past this stuff, hopefully, we'll be able to have this kind of conversation about that in retrospect. And to some people, I would say, I think some people would consider that movie, a bigger deal than this. And in some ways it was, from a widespread perspective. I think this movie, what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are they? Yes. If this movie came out now, or if the world existed more like it is now with the internet and whatnot, back when this came out, this would be a very polarizing film. As we've already discussed, 100%. It was.
It was without the internet. You
could say it killed the brand. I mean, it kind of. Ninja Turtles probably killed it more, but this didn't necessarily help. It was the hardcores loved it, but Transformers was a worldwide brand at the time, and this didn't necessarily do it the immediate favors it was expected to. Long term, absolutely, but Phil, I don't think we can ever get what you're kind of getting at, what you're suggesting, because this happened. Because this movie already exists, they're always going to try to like homage it in particular ways, or like subvert expectations because of it. Because this exists, you almost can't, lightning can't strike twice. And I think that's okay. Like, we need something different and new beyond this.
And I guess I don't mean that we're going to get this repeated. Are we going to get and you could certainly say that the 07 movie is a cultural touch point in the fan base. It definitely is. But it's jeered as much as it's revered, probably more so jeered. Will we ever get something that just feels like, 10, 15, 20 years after the fact is like, holy crap, like this was my thing. This was the thing that so much of the fandom watched over and over and over again, to the point where, fans have spent 2 months of their lives watching this movie.
I think for some people that may happen. Like, we haven't, those kids haven't gotten there yet.
It's true.
Us when in 2007 are still struggling through high school and college right now. They don't even. They're out there. I'm sure. I would love to. I'd love to get some on the show.
How many times has Sergio seen the original the Transformers movie from 2007?
I mean, it's got all those great scenes, like with Frenzy and the donuts and Air Force One, and he's shooting people with CDs. All those memorable scenes that everyone just loves to talk about. And it's a touch point in that everyone loves to go back and revisit those scenes. Like, "Are you ladies man 247?" And the ugly mouth cop bot is like banging on the floor talking about eBay and glasses and flashbacks to the 1800s on a boat or whatever. It's all the things you want in a Transformers film. Give me some more damn ho-hos, darling, or whatever the fuck the president said. Ding dongs, thanks. Because it's so memorable, you see. Yeah.
Exactly.
The double pump high rise, blah blah.
I will say I was there at a comic book convention where Serge got his Transformer. It was either his Barricade toy or his copy of Transformers the movie, autographed by Jess Harnell, made out to Ladies Man 247. So yeah, Serge does have some pretty high affinity for this, for that movie. And again, I'm an old curmudgeon at this point, so it doesn't hold the same weight for me. I just, I don't know. Like, I'm still just waiting for a Transformers movie that is Transformers, not teenage kids running around with occasional Transformers scenes. Like, give me Transformers fighting.
Well, here's one thing to say about War for Cybertron that I haven't heard brought up a lot. There are no humans in that show, which is what we have been yelling at the top of our lungs for forever. And it didn't.
And they still managed to make the robots boring.
Very. Because they walked around. It was a walk and talk show. That's what it was. It was awful. I still think Transformers hasn't had its live action moment.
It hasn't.
I still think it's. God, before I'm dead in my grave like Optimus Prime, I still think it'll happen. I still think we are gonna have our Batman Begins for Transformers. And maybe you don't like Batman Begins, but I was like, holy crap, that turned a silly Batman movie franchise into something worth watching.
One thing I was gonna say I wanted to bring up is the fact that I feel like in general that Hasbro has a hard time, or whoever the creative people are making these movies has a really hard time trying to make a movie for kids and adults that like it's so many times where they just try to make everything dark and gritty, and like I feel like Batman Begins like has been a scourge on everything, because now they've tried to make everything serious and dark and gritty and all that type of thing, and including Transformers. And that's where I wish that they would make it, like it wouldn't like that. What are you gonna say, Peter?
This was a movie in 1986 that was written for kids, and it was dark and gritty without being dark and gritty. This was the most brutal fucking thing I have ever seen. I had seen to date, and that was just before I saw RoboCop, which was then the most brutal fucking thing I'd seen to date.
That probably took the cake.
RoboCop took the cake. That one.
And the main character was pink.
And the main character was pink, and everyone disliked him except Cup. Like it was rough. It was a without trying to be gritty, it managed to change the entire landscape, be the most brutal thing that hundreds of thousands of kids had ever seen, and it completely changed. Like we said before, we keep going back to it. We homage it. We go back to it because it was the thing. It was the landmark event for our franchise, and it hasn't had its live action day, but it's gonna happen. I forgot where I was going.
I mean that's the trouble is like I don't necessarily think that the new War for Cybertron show was like that dark and gritty, but it was just boring.
It's forced
kind of thing.
It was
it was like a forced, gritty. And so I mean it's hard to do. And there's certain animation studios that don't work on Transformers that do a great job, with that kind of stuff of making movies that are good for kids and adults, and even if it's live action, whatever it may be, I don't know. Like I think that's kind of what we're looking for. Is I think the Bumblebee movie was like the closest for me of like coming to that. And it was getting there. It like I felt like it set the stage, and that's one thing that I'm a little frustrated with this the Beast, whatever former movie that's coming out. And not the fact that they're doing a Beast movie, like I'm fine with that. It's just that I feel like that of all the, things that have come out, it sounds like they're trying to make another Michael Bay movie instead of, trying to learn from what made the Bumblebee movie successful, like why it was critically hailed and like why the fans liked it and all that type of thing. And so I'm hoping that, I don't know, maybe they'll at least have some kernels of that, but I don't know. I'm worried.
To get the night is darkest before the dawn. We have to fail hard to get what we want, to get what needs to happen, to get new, to get the executive producers, the Don Murphys and the Beyond Terra guys to finally say, fine, we'll sell it to someone else so we don't have to work. That has to happen in order for us to move forward and do. And at this point, people in Hollywood, I'm so sick of the directors being like, oh, I grew up as a fan. Yeah. Like, no, I want someone that like cares more about Transformers than any other franchise, but is also a creative person that's like in that field that gets thrown the chance to do the Transformers thing and like becomes like the biggest sensation of all time. You've never heard of him until this, and it's amazing. And
we have to pull a G.I. Joe? Like Tank, you were saying Tank the franchise, so that it's like no, I mean whatever movie that just
pull
came
a 1990, or whatever, like the brand has to kind of really f up. The toys are selling so well right now that I just don't see it happening. But
I want Transformers to have Into the Spider-Verse. That's what I want for Transformers. Is what Into the Spider-Verse was for Spider-Man.
Nick and I have talked about that before. Just like something, it doesn't have to be like this huge theatrical like thing. It doesn't have to be Marvel level summer blockbuster nonsense. Give me something that's fun, smaller scale, but with good characters and a great story that is accessible, not overly gritty, but still has weight to it. You know, I'm asking a lot, but I want it to not suck. And aside from Bumblebee, I've felt that every one of the movies has been really disappointing. All of the live action movies. I really hoped after the last night, once I saw the returns and everything, and it didn't rise to their expectations, and the toy line was cut short, and blah, blah, I was like, yay, it's happening! Finally, we're gonna get a real reboot, and Bonaventura and Murphy are gonna go, because they're everyone likes to harp on Bay as being the problem, but he's only a part of the problem, and we need the entire creative team to go.
They need to clean house. Like I almost say, like I hope Paramount doesn't even do it. Like give it to Like could Disney? I can't believe I'm saying this, but like could Disney do it?
Disney could do it, I believe. And Disney at one point was talking to purchase Hasbro proper, which would give them all those properties. And I bet Disney could do a great job with all the Hasbro properties. I think Disney, if they were to get their hands on the property, they would take a step back and do some research and give it a nice push, you know, with some good thought.
That's where I feel like it's almost the opposite, where we need things to go so well that they just have extra money laying around, that they just happen to luck into some creator that makes like some show for the Paramount Plus, you know, TV or what, like streaming or whatever kind of thing, kind of like Disney, like with Mandalorian, where they're like, oh, we can make like shows that are like people actually love and whatnot, and they're not going to complain about.
People complain nonstop about the Star Trek show on Paramount Plus. It is beans.
I'm not saying like Paramount Plus. I'm saying the analog to Disney, to where you have like, you're like, oh, we want to make this extra content, we want to make an extra show, and then it just so happens that the direction of the franchise ends up getting dictated because everyone loves whatever that new thing is so much, and it gets critical praise and money and things like that. It probably won't happen anyway, but because even if it does happen, like who's going to subscribe to Paramount Plus, right? Yeah.
I would love to see anything Transformers related get actual critical praise.
Well, what about Cyberverse?
Cyberverse is fun. I like Cyberverse, and kids like Cyberverse. It's got that good mix of a little bit of weight, a lot of fun, the characters you love, doing, you know, what you're familiar with them doing. It's not so far different that it's like off-putting or whatever to classic fans, and it's accessible.
I feel like it gets swept under the rug a lot, I guess. It's kind of where all the good storytelling was in that.
The first season was you know, Bumblebee centric that a lot of people just stopped watching. I don't think I would have watched it at all until my son found it on Netflix and was like, all right, let's watch it. And like he started watching season 2 episodes and like, whoa, that's kind of, oh, there's Bludgeon. Bludgeon's really cool. Wow. Oh, there's Drift. Wow, they got Drift to show. Like, oh, Drift was a traitor back to the Decepticons. That's fun. And then season 3 just went like bonkers. Insane.
It was so much fun.
I mean, the Dweller in the Depths episode of season 3 is fantastic. They did really cool stuff. Those whatever those movies they're doing for Cyberverse is something I'm looking forward to as a Transformers fan. I feel like that's the closest we've gotten in the last decade. I mean, that and Bumblebee are the closest we've gotten in the last decade to what like scratches my itch as a fan.
I can agree with all of that.
When I went to San Diego, I've only been to one San Diego. I don't remember the one where Unicron was shown, HasLab Unicron. I went to the Cyberverse panel, and like, I wasn't really. I perked up because I was listening to all the writers. It was all the writers on the panel, and they were so passionate about Transformers and the show and the stories they were telling. And I was like, oh my God, these are like real competent people, and the way these people are describing the show is getting me excited. And then seeing it actually play out with like kind of the hints they were giving, I was like, this is a good team. Like they want to make this work. And it was totally overlooked by the fandom at large. And like, it felt to me like an IDW comic panel at a TFCon or a BotCon with like James Roberts there talking about his storytelling and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is good. These people exist. They're out there. It's just that it's on like sort of it's not hitting. It's people that are doing storytelling on the level that we want. It's just not through the medium that we expect. So it was missed.
Mark in the chat said like the toy line was so bad, and I think I think a lot of fans looked at the first season of the show and the toy line that was aimed for kids, not for collectors, and just wrote it off.
The initial waves of the line, all the warrior class stuff was really bad. But once they got into deluxes and some of the other stuff, I mean, coming off of RID, which was also pretty bad, toy wise, and just like you said, so Bumblebee heavy. The rollout of Cyberverse was a big misstep for Cyberverse.
Yeah, it just the first impressions were bad on a lot of different angles, and then it got better, but too many fans had walked away from it by then. And I've had this conversation. You know, you guys have heard me in this show bring this up, and so many of the other cast members are like, they haven't really given it a chance. Like, and we are freaking diehard Transformers fans as cast members, and the cast members are like, yeah, I don't know, I won't give it, and they'll hear my passion about it, like maybe I should check it out, and then 2 months later it comes up again, like, I still haven't checked it out. It seemed kind of lousy at first.
I mean, I'm singing its praises, and I still haven't seen season 3. I just it's honestly just been haven't had the time, and it's my own fault. It's not like I don't want to. So
they're short. You can
is it on
quickly.
Netflix or YouTube, or what's the best place to watch it?
It was on the Hasbro channel on YouTube for a while. I don't know if it's still there. That's where I was watching it because they were putting it out, however weekly or whatever, for a while.
Last I saw it was on Netflix, but I'm gonna look it up right now.
Do it. Push the show.
Hey, I'm gonna say the better Netflix Transformers show.
Can I sort of segue us back to the topic at hand?
What's the topic at hand?
The movie.
GoBots,
the
right?
Rock Lords
animated movie. It just to show the lasting power of this film, like it's kind of like really think about this, that they made an actual toy line dedicated to preserving this film. The Studio Series 86 line is kind of an unprecedented event in the history of the brand. Like, sure, they've made the Masterpiece line kind of pays homage to, versions of characters from the cartoon and stuff. But like, this is like, hey, we're going to pull out all these toys, and they're supposed to be the spit and image of what is in this one piece of media, which lots of other brands have done. Like X-Men does it all the time. Like, this is a character that was seen in one issue with the comic, and here's a Marvel legend of it. But like, they finally applied some of those mentalities to Transformers, and they're doing it really well.
I've got a whole bunch of Dark of the Moon toys that are, just, if you look at them, it's man, that Sentinel.
They do not really, the Studio Series toys have come a lot closer than the actual movie toy line.
They really have. You're right. And these are molds that it works, and that they're actually calling it out as Transformers the movie. Studio Series 86, they're tying it directly. There's no ambiguity, and they're going to be able to reuse these molds with different colors. I have zero fucking doubt that Galvatron that we're seeing in Kingdom is going to come in with the proper color purple, with his chin painted properly, with his little red boops on his head crest painted properly, without schmutz all over his chest, in some box set for Studio Series 86 sometime within the next 12 months. Zero doubt. Kingdom Cyclonus is going to show up in a Studio Series 86 with a tweaked deco. Is it going to be the pink thighs and pink elbows? I don't know. We'll see. But he's going to come.
Well, I guess to pull it back a little bit, I said Transformers is a fiction first brand, the fiction second brand. The toy line, the toys come first, then the toy. But in this case, it's the fiction that they're homaging more so than the toy line. So we've come full circle. And they're actually using it. It's just like when they make a version of Luke Skywalker that looks like an exact guy from a scene, this is the Bespin
Mark
Luke.
Hamill.
Bespin, yeah.
Yeah, this is Bespin Luke. And they make it, it's the spitting image of that scene. This is kind of like the first time we've really gotten that for Transformers, at least for the G1 stuff. Yeah, we've gotten all the previous Studio Series stuff was essentially that, but I think it's cool, and it's like about time that they're able to treat their, pay homage to their fiction in the plastic form instead of the other way around.
I agree with that, Paul. And something that triggered that thought in me the other day was there's a guy in our local Chicago Facebook group who was selling a botcon set. Forgive me, I don't remember which botcon set this was, but it was Avalanche was one of the bigger pieces, the landmine redeco, and a lot of the Energon toys and the redeco.
You don't remember who that was?
Oh, I remember who was selling it. I know distinctly who was selling that. And isn't he getting his own toy soon? Anyways, what cracked me up was the Scourge that was in that set. That was a repaint of what, Sideways? Who was that Scourge a repaint of? It was one of the Energon toys. I want to say not Energon, Cybertron toys.
It was before we got the Stealth Bomber one.
Noise Maze. What was his name in America? Sideways.
Yeah. Sideways. Yeah. And we were talking in our text chain about it. It's like, man, you remember when that was dudes on my shelf? This is my Scourge. These are my sweeps. And now we have this toy. Now we have this it is not 100% absolutely perfect, but this is by far and above the best Scourge that we have gotten. And we settled so much in the past, relatively recent past, because yes, and then we got a Scourge wow, this Scourge, it looks just like the robot, kind of, with the wings aren't quite right. Oh, and it turns into a stealth bomber, but yeah, this movie has a lot of staying power, and I'm glad that Hasbro has recognized it to the extent that we will shell out large amounts of money for this. But 35 years later, and it's gimme.
I hope they don't. I hope they give us every single figure in there. I actually hope what you said doesn't come true, Peter, because I want them to do them again better. I want a different Cyclonus in the Studio Series line. I want a different Galvatron in the Studio Series line.
Wait, are you talking different molds?
Yeah, I want them to do it over again, baby. Just do it over.
I'm not going to
I
argue.
think
We talk about incremental improvements. I'm down for more incremental improvements. But getting the paint right would be a first step in the first stepping of stepping it up.
And give Cyclonus a new head.
Yeah, he needs a new face altogether.
Yeah.
I will just be annoyed when they just start interchanging Studio Series and War for Cybertron molds. I know it's going to happen, but so far it hasn't. So I'm like, keep that up.
Give it time.
Your butts. Yeah.
Let's see. I was gonna go back to mention about book club. Book club this on Sunday is going to be. They're gonna at 8:00 Central. They're going to do an episode of the animated show, episode 6. So Transformers animated, and then at 9:00 they will be discussing Sins of the Wreckers issues 1 and 2. So if you want to check that out, that is on the TF Talk Discord. So the link for that should be on Twitter and on YouTube.
That is a highly recommended series by me.
Tidal Wave.
So I'm surprised that they're doing Sins of the Wreckers before Last Stand of the Wreckers. Because I don't think they covered Last Stand. Did they?
That seems like a big mistake.
I could be 100% wrong on that, and they've already covered Last Stand, but I just don't recall.
Aren't they doing it chronologically by the IDW books, by starting with More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise?
I think they started with the Death of Optimus Prime, which was the spin out into those two, but
Yes.
Which means that Last Stand was 5 years prior. So I don't know if they've gotten to it yet, like was said. But they owe it to themselves to go back and read it before they Anyway,
because it's
Book club.
awesome.
Yeah, I think that they were jumping around a few of like, so More Than Meets the Eye and RID was in order, but then I think some of the other books I could be 100% wrong on that. They may be going on, whatever the order is, but
maybe you should join the book club, Lucas.
Right,
then you would know.
So Zaldron said they started with Phase 2. Yeah, so it sounds like they're only reading the Phase 2 stuff because I think they did Windblade as well, not too long ago.
Well, that's chronologically. That's where that fits.
Drift,
this is where they.
Right, I think Drift and Windblade both, right?
It was one of the later Drift series, though.
It was the Drift Boops of Stone Boop, hanging out with Micromasters.
Oh, so Zaldron says that Last Stand is homework, so you actually have to read that before reading Sins. So if you, for some reason, if anyone had not read Last Stand before reading Sins of the Wreck-gars, make sure to go back and read that first. So
it's like when your English teacher says, "Hey, if you want some extra credit, go read 1984." I'm not going to make you read it, but you might want to. And if you don't, you're stupid.
Everyone should read 1984.
Right.
I saw the Apple commercial. That's good enough, right? The abridged version.
There you go.
Did you see that commercial as you were seeing a commercial for this movie? Like they were back to back?
I guess they could have been.
Yeah, I think the commercial
they
was
wouldn't
before. Yeah.
It's like 2 years before.
It was 2 years before, during the Super Bowl or whatever.
Oh, one last anecdote since you brought that up. I remember seeing the reason I went and saw this because I saw the commercial for this movie, and I remember it said check your local listings and times, and I was always like, oh man, how do you do that? As a kid, and then I finally think I was like, Mom, they say to check your local listings and times. Do you know how to do that? Then she took me to the movie.
I mean, you don't remember getting your your newspaper out and checking the movie times in the newspaper?
I didn't read the newspaper when I was 4.
What is a newspaper?
Little kid me was holding just a block, just punching it, hoping that just by punching this block, things would magically appear on it that would tell me the information I was seeking.
Or you call the movie theater and they had a recording that you would listen to, they would give you all the movie times.
Okay, I don't think I had ever dialed a phone at that point either.
I think this was maybe even before they had the recordings. I think that was still when people would answer the phone at the movie theater and you'd have to ask them what the times were.
Yeah, you call them up and they're like, Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Sure.
I want Stranger Things season 5 with the Ghostbusters.
It's called Afterlife.
So, all right. Well, any final thoughts, guys, before we wrap here?
Just gave mine.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to Ron, Zaldron, Mark, Enot, Ron, Man Monster Mecha, Catherine, Soulcraft. I think you got everyone. So yeah, thanks guys, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week.
You've got the touch.